something should, and even if it's more than $2 is kind of small, because most of us would just let something like $2 go. But what if it was something like $1,000 each, right?
But that's a case of a consumer versus a shareholder. But we have many cases where it's a shareholder, or a prior shareholder, and a current shareholder.
Different kind of lawsuit, and I agree, and I'll get to that. I'm talking about class actions, and what you're talking actually is called a shareholder derivative suit. Okay, and that's where a shareholder will seize upon some wrong that they think that it's kind of like I was talking about the key TAM suits, because you have to have a shareholder involved. That's federal stuff. We haven't been concentrating on generally federal law. I don't know how to fix that. Put the plaintiff's lawyers. Some of them. Heck, some of them went to jail. Recently went to jail because of it. I couldn't tell you. I hate. It keeps seemingly I'll keep hitting on things that are a little bit outside of what we've been working on. I wish I had answers for stuff like that, but that just isn't something that we've worked on. We have worked on the class actions. That's pursued under state law. Shareholder derivative stuff is usually on federal court.
Now you've limited liability judgments, right? Is there a limit?
Just for punitive damages. Actual damages, there is no limit except in medical malpractice cases. Medical malpractice cases that we limited liability on those. But any other case,
so punitive damages have been limited. Is there a general rule on the limitations there?
I think it's $250,000.
Okay.
It's limited. Look,
this was way out of it.
This was hard decision that the state had to face. We were faced with the likelihood that we were not going to have enough doctors to take care of us, or the likelihood that there are some instances where people who are grievously hurt by doctors are not going to get their full amount of their judgment. The policy decision of the state has been it is more important to have more doctors to take care of us, and unfortunately there are some people who may not gain adequate. I get sick thinking about it at times because I have friends who are hurt by doctors, who are hurt by bad doctors, and they can't get a lawyer in order to pursue their case because the liability is too low, and it's really kind of wiped out the medical malpractice cases. On the other hand, doctors aren't getting sued all the time on just any random thing. They can get liability insurance, and they can actually get back to practicing law. And over time, I think it'll have an effect on, what we talk about with medical, with the cost curve. I think there's a lot of medicine being practiced that it doesn't need to be practiced, and tests being ordered because of fear of lawsuits. And over time, I think that'll get better and better. Unfortunately, we're way ahead of most states on this, so other states kind of have to. He had his hand up for. Okay.
I've got a question about kind of a curious case that came up about 25 years ago in San Antonio. A young man took his car and tried to make a right angle turn at 110 miles an hour, hit a telephone pole. And when the lawsuit was settled, he won because nobody told him he couldn't do that. What's going on? We espouse stupidity?
That's the type of thing you can't fix them all. We have put rules into place, and in Texas, we will hopefully not have results like that. But sometimes there's no accounting for, you put those 12 folks in the jury box. Good example, the hot coffee case, right? McDonald's hot coffee case. Everyone who hears that, who wasn't in that jury box, thinks that's outrageous. But 12 people heard the jury. It wasn't, they got convinced that coffee was too hot, that someone should have told them not made that coffee survive. I don't know. Sometimes no matter what you do, you're going to have outliers, cases. You can't fix them all. Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking that, the Texas having tort reform, you would think that our cost of our medical insurance would go down, but Texas is still one of the highest states. So why is that?
Well, it has gone down for, I guess you're saying the cost of our insurance has gone up, because overall costs of medical care have increased. It isn't just tort reform that was causing, costs to go up. I mean, I'm sure y'all have had people come in and talk about, what's going on the medical side about, we've removed the market from the medical industry. It's so out of whack over there that there's nothing containing costs. It isn't just the tort reform, or it just wasn't frivolous lawsuits that was forcing it up. We have documented that for hospitals and med center, they pay significantly less in their insurance than they did before, and individual doctors are able to practice medicine. But why it's costs so much? Gosh, I wish I knew, or I'd be off making speeches on
Well,
that.
because when they talk about, other states and things that we can do to bring down insurance, and they'll say, what about, in tort reform, that's one of the main, Texas has that, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
It's just one aspect. I mean,
Yeah.
the part that's direct, that you can go one-to-one, or not one-to-one, sort of direct relation, tort reform versus the amount that the doctors themselves are paying in their insurance, unequivocally has gone down. But that's just a small amount of the problem. Hold on, you get your second bite in a minute.
About small business reform, being a small business, I get sued maybe 4 or 5 times a year. It can be for the simplest thing, unlawful termination, unemployment, or what kind of reform y'all doing for the small business? I mean, because, we're talking about big corporations, and $1 million or $1 billion isn't much, but when we're having to spend 3 months on one case, which
Yeah.
over 10 years, I've only lost once, but there's nothing ever happens to the person who's falsely, filing a lawsuit against a small business. Being 70% of the economy, where's the reform of small business?
There isn't anything on specifically on small business. The fact of the matter is that we still live in a litigious society, and lawsuits are going to be filed, and $75 in a word processor is all it takes is to file a lawsuit. All we can do as tort reformers is make it so that when you do get sued, it's a level playing field. And before, when you got sued, you really didn't even have a hope. You said you've only lost one. Well, I mean, you wouldn't even have probably, 15 years ago, even tried to win. You just would have immediately settled because you felt like you couldn't get a fair hearing. We don't.
It'll cost me 3 times more than what I would have settled if I just not that person to settle. So I'll spend 3 times more money than whereas if I would have went ahead and settled for any of the suits.
In my mind, and maybe this is a group that I would, maybe you all agree with me on this because I maybe share the sentiment. There isn't a government fix for every ill in society, and we have gotten to the point in society where we're just a litigious society, and hopefully over time, the reforms we've put into place will convince people that they won't get a jackpot merely by filing a lawsuit. I think there are many instances. There are still counties in this state, Jefferson County, the counties down in the valley. It wasn't just too long ago that those 4 counties down in South Texas were, lawsuit havens, and it was the jackpot. You filed a lawsuit there. I wish I had a silver bullet for every problem, but people